because I'm afraid people who haven't seen it are going to hate me. You kept insisting on that awful British accent.
What?
That the whole time...
Me, governor?
I know, and I was having a seizure about it.
You know, I always look up the little synopsis to read, and really, for this, just crazy shit happens.
This week it is hashtag don't forget to bring a towel, and we did not forget to bring our towel. Welcome. This is the Fright Club podcast, and she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from madwolf.com, and we are back doing it live in front of the crowded Gateway Film Center, where we are, yeah. And the ones in front, they've kind of got that look on their face. They're wary. Are there going to be body fluids? Is this a Guar concert? What's going on? But we're back here.
Surprise, it's a Guar concert.
Back as we are every second Wednesday of the month at Gateway, doing Fright Club Live. And welcome. Come on in. We are talking body fluid horror. And we were in happy hour earlier, and I forget who, but somebody said, how did this countdown come up? And you've been thinking about it for a while and kind of put it to the side and then kind of revisited?
Yes. Well, the film that we're going to show, We Are the Flesh, I first thought about, it was like the short list probably 2 years ago to show here, and I bumped it. And then last year, and then I bumped it because I'm afraid people who haven't seen it are going to hate me. And so this year, you were just like, dude, suck it up and get it on that list. And so here it is.
So if they do hate it, you blame me then, because I just said, put it on there.
Well, no, it's my fault. It's my fault.
No, it's going to be fun because we have to come up with these countdown themes.
I don't think fun is the word.
It's going to be fun. We're going to make it fun.
Okay.
We're going to make it fun. So welcome. And before we get to that, we want to thank everybody that chimed in about last time out. We did the best horror movies so far this year. And even though there are some good ones, we kind of agreed that so far this year it hasn't been the strongest.
No, although the second half already started really strong with the first big horror film of July, Midsummer,
right,
which we loved.
Right, exactly.
And, of course, It Chapter 2 is coming up. Hopefully, the other big Lupita Nyong'o horror movie. She's making 2 this year. Oh, my God. It's so awesome. Little Monsters. I'm hoping that gets released this year, that we get to see the second half of the year. So I think it should end strong. But, we found a bunch of good ones to talk about.
Oh, yeah, and I'm already looking forward to the end of the year to talk about Midsummer because that has become so polarizing. It's just one of those movies that's so much fun to talk about and try to dissect. And if you haven't seen it, go do that. And then we can discuss on Twitter. Speaking of, we got some funny comments over on Twitter at Fright Club Pod.
We did. Well, it's funny, actually. The first comment was from our friend Omar, who was actually talking about our other podcast, The Screening Room, right? Because we talked about the movie yesterday on The Screening Room, the Beatles-inspired movie, and you kept insisting on that awful British accent.
What?
That the whole time.
Me, governor?
I know, and I was having a seizure about it. And then so on Twitter, Omar suggested that we do an entire podcast, a Cockney podcast. And
I think I suggested that first. He was just backing me up.
It could be. But Dan Stout thought he assumed that this was a Fright Club podcast. And then Omar said that we should basically do, you can be Sweeney Todd and I can be Mrs. Lovett. And then.
Okay.
So I guess it's is it like cosplay? Are we doing like a cosplay podcast at this point? Which doesn't make much sense since we just do it in a studio. But, it might be fun.
But that gives us some Halloween ideas already. Halloween costume ideas.
It does.
So thanks for that feedback. And by the way, speaking of The Screening Room, which is our other podcast that we do every week where we review all the new movies, both The Screening Room and Fright Club have been nominated for the Columbus Podcast Awards this year. So come out and help celebrate with us. The awards are going to be August 25th right here at the Gateway from 6 to 8, and the awards will highlight and celebrate some of your favorite podcasts in Columbus, like ours. And this will be family-friendly. Who agreed to that? Family-friendly, free event, so come out and support it, and you can register for free tickets to the award show at columbuspodcastawards.com. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
And by the way, as we're thanking again everybody for all the support for the fun we had at the Dead Don't Die screening, who that was hooked up. We were hooked up with that by Cicely.
That's right.
We can't really spill all the beans right now, but we might have
there
another.
There are beans to spill.
There are beans to spill soon, hopefully.
Yep.
We're going to have another bit of fun arranged by Cicely, our friend at the Owens Group.
That's right. A fun event for our August
for our August Fright
Fright
Club
Club.
Live. So stay tuned to Mad Wolf
Which will
Columbus.
offset the film we're going to show, Hounds of Love, which is not fun. It's great. It's a brilliant movie. Fun, it's not.
Yeah, so watch us on Twitter or Mad Wolf Columbus on Facebook. Hopefully we'll have something to announce here real soon, and that'll be for the August Fright Club. And by the way, just there's not going to be a studio Fright Club between now and then because we've had Fright Club this whole time on Golden Spiral Media. We're changing hosts. Golden Spiral Media, great. Daryl and everybody there, we wish them nothing but the best, but they're kind of going in a different direction, and we are too, so we decided to just part ways friendly and wish each other well. So we're going to be changing hosts here in the next month, so we're going to have to take one off as we get that all squared away.
Yeah, and also as we're lazy. Laziness is playing a big role in this, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But
But no, really, seriously, thanks again to Daryl and everybody at Golden Spiral Media.
yeah, they're awesome.
And
They're
they
awesome.
have some great podcasts there,
Yeah,
by the
they
way,
really
especially
do.
if you have a favorite TV show. A lot of their
Yes.
podcasts.
Well, they do a great one for the Twilight Zone.
Yep. And
but
Stranger
also,
Things
Stranger
and
Things,
all
but
those.
also, of course, Corey Metcalf, our
Yeah.
senior Aussie correspondent. He's got at least one podcast over there.
Yeah, at least one, exactly.
Right.
So we'll be back for next month for Fright Club Live in August. But let's get back to body fluids. I know everybody wants to. Anything to run down before we get to these top 5?
So, and it's the funniest thing, too, that I watch a lot of horror movies. I don't know if you're aware of that.
What?
The only thing that I really can't stomach is body fluids. Like blood I'm good with, arterial spray all day long. But everything else, it just grosses me out. It just absolutely grosses me out. So like sort of revisiting some options for this, I just thought, I'm going to be sick. So there are a couple of films that didn't make the list that I want to just call out for making me sick. Drag Me to Hell. I forgot how nasty that vomit scene was. I'm like, oh God, I'm watching this again.
Yeah, vomit especially. She doesn't like the vomit.
There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, and most of the movies that made the list made me sick in one way or another. That was like how the wretch reaction. How strong was it? Okay, that one's on the list then. So that was that's how we ranked them.
Mm-hmm.
How much did I retch or near retch?
That's a solid ranking system.
I think so.
Okay, so
I think
some that
so.
didn't make it.
One of them that I came close to making it, but it's just so bad of a film is Street Trash. You guys know Street Trash, right? Trauma.
I got some
And
fans here.
the
Street
bums
Trash.
melt. And I thought, I don't even know that's body fluids. It's candle wax. So that really, but and then Reanimator, although those aren't really body fluids exactly either, but it's very fluidy. Society, where they kind of melt into each other. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
like, what's the line? Is it a fluid? It's more of a goo. I don't know. I think too much about this. Scanners, there's a lot of projectile whatnot, but again, is it fluid? I don't know. The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So The Exorcist and Carrie and Drag Me to Hell, these are all movies that have like one great scene, like pivotal scene.
Mm-hmm.
Then the rest of the movie is kind of fluid free, more or less. And so I thought, well, we got to have at least one that's not on here for volume. It's on here for like the power of the one scene.
And is it going to be number
It's
5?
gonna be number
I think
5.
it is. Hoping to walk away with a massive fortune, a trio of thieves break into the house of a blind man who isn't as helpless as he seems. 2016, Don't Breathe.
Yo, I got our ticket out of here. Rumor is this guy is sitting on at least $300K. Boom! That's our guy.
Wait, is he blind?
Messed up to rob a blind guy, isn't it?
Just because he's blind don't mean he's insane, bro.
Who's there?
Stay right there.
How many of you are there?
Hey, man, all right? Just let me go, please.
Okay, I swear to God.
Oh, we're trapped in here.
There has to be a way out of here.
Now you're gonna see what I see.
I remember seeing the trailer for this before we actually saw it, and I immediately was drawn in by the trailer, and I remember thinking, I hope they, explore it effectively, and I was ready to be let down, and boy, was I not, because it delivers the goods.
Yeah, it really does. The anxiety and the tension and the claustrophobia and yeah, you like find yourself like not breathing and not making any noise. And Stephen Lang, who plays the blind man, this crazy jacked blind man, who's always good in everything. And,
Yeah.
he was great.
Yeah,
in this
and
movie.
he has, I think it's 13 lines of dialogue, really.
Shut up.
Yeah, and he is so so effective. And the way they, like you said, it's claustrophobic, and everybody's wondering, when are you going to talk about the body fluids? Because is there anybody that hasn't seen this? Hasn't seen Don't Breathe? Oh,
okay.
Okay.
All right. No, that's good to know.
Yeah, that is good because when it gets to the body fluids, I didn't expect it to go there. But it's pretty memorable. He's shaking his head. No, it is extremely memorable.
It is,
and it involves a turkey baster.
It does, and just a single hair. I think that was the push over the cliff to me. I'm like, oh God.
But that's why, like you were saying, that's why this made the list, because even though it's really just that one scene, it is so, like, you got to be kidding me.
And it's also not gratuitous in the way that it's handled. There's almost no way for it not to be, and yet it wasn't.
And it's very important to the story.
It is. It absolutely is. And the story takes
what's
this
going on.
Complete left turn.
Yeah.
Once they get in the basement, which is always where left turns are taken, stay out of the basement, everyone.
Boy, and they still have on IMDb right now. They still have "Don't Breathe 2."
Yeah, they do.
They don't have a date for it, but it's listed again. Fede Alvarez and Stephen Lang and Jane Levy back, so I don't know if it's getting close or whatever.
I kind of don't want him to do it, but
I don't know.
Mm.
But it's speaking of Fede Alvarez, who we probably will be speaking of later in this podcast. In contrast to that other movie, he was determined here to make it less bloody and with an original storyline, more suspenseful, and take out really supernatural elements and just get lean and mean with this one. And I think, man, he really did achieve that.
Yeah, he did. We were just talking today, actually, because we're going to do a podcast coming up soon, actually, that Pink Paradox is all about dogs. We were going to do one on cats and dogs, and there are just too many cats movies and just too many dogs movies, so we're going to split it apart. Mm-hmm. And I just realized today what a good option this movie is for the Dogs podcast.
Yeah.
So I might have just skipped right past it, and now I think I'm going to have to give it a second thought.
Okay.
That's a scary-ass dog.
It is a scary dog.
It is.
Yeah, and this one, we're not going to spoil the ending, but this one, suffice to say, originally had a very darker ending than the ending that they had, but it didn't go over well with test screening, so they changed it, and then they left themselves open to a possible sequel.
Yeah,
which may or may not be coming, but I hope so. I'm in for it. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm in for it. I mean, they did that one effectively. If everybody's back, I'm in for it. And if they can bring in another inventive twist on body fluids, maybe
because that is my favorite thing.
Move to a meat thermometer? I don't know what could be next, but that is Don't Breathe from 2016, number 5 on our list of body fluid horror. And going from just a little bit, one scene, to an awful lot, many scenes, all the scenes. A young man's mother is bitten by a Sumatran rat monkey. She gets sick and dies, at which time she comes back to life, killing and eating dogs and friends and neighbors. It's Dead Alive.
On this picturesque block, in this manicured home, something horrifying is haunting Lionel.
Your mother's dead, Lionel.
Now, whatever Mom's got
Who's your mother?
has caught on with the neighbors. How do you kill something that's already dead?
Your mother ate my dog!
Dead alive.
So it's that scene right there with the lawnmower, right? That's my favorite scene in this movie. That's just such an inspired, carnage-laden party scene.
Yeah,
but
and
that's not the scene that got this movie on this list. Although honestly, this list doesn't exist without Peter Jackson. Let's be honest. And any one of his movies, including some of his non-horror films, could probably have made this list. But the reason it's the custard scene. You guys know the custard scene? Ugh, God. And and we were talking about it in Happy Hour. I think it was Jason who was saying it's actually the sound, like the chewing sort of food sound, like married to that sort of squirt of pus, and then God. Ugh. So,
I don't know if she's going to make it through her own countdown here. But because for me, I mean, the lawnmower scene, that's a lot of blood. In fact, apparently they were pumping at 5 gallons per second for that lawnmower scene. Mm-hmm. And this one, I think before another movie that we're going to talk about, this one had the record, didn't it?
It
For
did.
most fake blood.
It did.
I can believe it.
This movie, right, Dead Alive, knocked the Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, knocked it out of the top spot for most blood or body fluids, fake body fluids being used in a film. And then Dead Alive came out and just obliterated that record. And then it's funny because the promise is that It Chapter 2 is going to beat the current record. We'll talk about the current record in a minute. I find it hard I don't know how you beat that one.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm eager to see someone try.
Yeah. Oh, I am too. Very eager. As we've talked before, this one is not my favorite movie.
No?
But it's, his type of horror comedy just, I don't know, it's just kind of lost on me for one reason or another. But I certainly agree that it's body fluid heavy. And, I knew, obviously this was in 92, and then years later Peter Jackson did a really fine remake of King Kong. And this one has that one reference to King Kong because they were bringing in the monkeys from Skull Island.
Yes.
But I just learned recently it has another one. The actor who plays the guy who takes the picture of Lionel's mother crushing the rat monkey's head.
Yeah.
He was actually an extra in the 1976 King Kong.
Oh.
He was just like in the crowd.
The worst of the King Kongs.
Yeah.
The lowest rung Kong.
But what Kong?
Sexy Kong.
Sexy
That's
Kong.
right.
Yeah, it was Jessica
Dwan.
Lange. Dwan. Jessica
Dwan.
Lange and Jeff Bridges. Yeah, this one it's got, as I think we've talked about, mentioned this before, is that it came with in some of the rentals it came with vomit bags because it had so much. I think for me it's just too comical. It's just too absurd to get really vomit inducing. But maybe that was just
that dinner scene that's the one. That's the push over the cliff. I mean, there's lots of other the zombie baby, split the head open. I mean, there's lots of others, but it's the pus and the custard. That's the one.
Puss and Custard, make
Yeah.
it Dead Alive from 1992. That is number 4 on our body fluid list. And we'll move up to number 3, and that's the one that we're going to see tonight. After wandering a ruined city for years in search of food and shelter, 2 siblings find their way into one of the last remaining buildings in 2016's We Are the Flesh. Now, I know there's more than a few people, at least a few people haven't seen this, and we never like to talk too much about the movie that we're going to show for fear of spoilers, but usually we go off by ourselves and find a little quiet place and talk about it, but this time we're going to just continue here after the movie and record it. So anybody that wants to come down and just kind of get your thoughts on, we'd love to hear what you think about it after the movie, because this one, especially Hope, is very concerned about the reactions.
I'm a little worried. But if you're here, and all the body fluids, any body fluid you can think of, all of them, they all star in this movie.
Yeah,
all the body.
As somebody said in Happy Hour, it goes places.
It does. It goes all the places.
So we'll leave it at that. That's number 3. We Are the Flesh, tonight's movie that we'll see here in just a few. Number 2, body fluid list, one we've been alluding to for a while. 5 friends head to a remote cabin where the discovery of a Book of the Dead leads them to unwittingly summon up demons living in the nearby woods. 2013's Evil Dead.
You are all going to die tonight.
I read a passage from that book.
Oh my god! Why did you do that?
We're gonna get you, not another peep. Time to go to sleep.
So 50,000 gallons of fake blood in one scene in that movie, right? So the torrential downpour, and it's just bleeding. The world is bleeding. And that's what knocked Dead Alive out of the top spot, and that's what It Chapter 2 claims it's going to beat.
I remember just being blown away by this, how much I liked this movie, because you love the original Evil Deads very much, and I'm like, okay, this one is so good. I think it's so far and away the best of the Evil Dead series. I just love it. And originally, it was going to be the kickoff of a trilogy. They were going to do Army of Darkness 2 after this, starring Mia, and then come back with Ash and Mia teaming up. But nobody picked up on Army of Darkness 2, so they went to the TV series, Ash vs. Evil Dead, which, man, that's a bump. That would have been fun.
It would have been fun. And I think Fede Alvarez's take on this was so much less comical, less Three Stooges-y, that he lost a lot of the core audience. A lot of people hated this movie. A lot of fans of the franchise hated this movie. And a lot of people who are just horror fans and who are not fans of the franchise really enjoyed it. I am a fan of the franchise, and I think this is a great movie, and I love the way it recombines all the elements from the first two, certainly, and then just kind of, you see all the same things. Somebody carves their arm off, and somebody is trapped on the basement, and I mean, all of the same things except for the tree rape, which honestly I was happy to not have again. But everything else is in there, just in a different combination, in a different order, which I thought was really fresh and interesting, but not uncalled for, because honestly, Evil Dead 2 is just a remake of The Evil Dead. It's just a remake of The Evil Dead is all it is, with like $20 extra for production. So I thought it was actually really in keeping with
20.
Pizza money. I thought it was really in keeping with sort of the history of the film, but I think a lot of people they really missed the comedic element, and you did not, because
I did not.
That type of comedy is not your style.
I just thought this
was
was
not your tempo.
Not my tempo, not my jam, as the kids say. But
no kids say that.
Come on, I'm trying to be hip. Fede Alvarez has said they used 50,000 gallons for the final scene alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be hard to beat. I mean, the ball's in your court, it too. We're looking for that. But as we've said a couple of times talking about this, Diablo Cody worked on the screenplay, which is never a bad idea.
No, and I think and she doesn't get credit for it.
Right.
But she's all over it.
Yeah. And because of the body fluids and their effect that they shot like 95% of this in chronological order, because once you start spraying that stuff, it's hard to come back. It's hard to come back to ground zero. So they had to just shoot it in order. And I don't understand. I guess I should say maybe I do. For the people that love that absurd nature, the crazy nature of the first couple, I could see how you'd be missing that. But I just think this is so far superior. And I would have loved to see him continue on.
Yes. No, I would have too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this very much, and I didn't expect to, but I definitely did.
Very good.
I missed Bruce Campbell, but
he's at the end, the very end.
Yeah. I do think that in most movies I see, I think, I miss Bruce Campbell. So, why would this be any different?
So, number 2, Evil Dead, the 2013 version on our list of body fluid horror. And boy, what in the heck could beat that? Well, it's our number 1 movie from 2003. A Yakuza enforcer, it's a giveaway, is ordered to secretly drive his beloved colleague to be assassinated. It's Takashi Miike Gozu.
I love that movie so much.
Of course, veteran Fright Clubbers will remember we showed this here as part of Fright Club some time ago, and it's one where I always look up the little synopsis to read, and really for this, just crazy shit happens. I mean, that's pretty much the synopsis of this. It just, man, talk about going places. Holy crap. This is a crazy movie.
It is.
It's funny. It's surreal. It's WTF. It's just totally absurd, and it's Takashi Miike just running wild.
Yeah. I mean, he pushes taboos. He enjoys taboos. Whew. And it's funny. So it's the same writer and director as Ichi the Killer. Ichi the Killer's title screen is written in semen. So, they've got a long history of really enjoying the body fluids. And the reason that Gozu, besides the fact that I just love this movie, is the push over the cliff, is that it's got more lactation in it than any of the films on the list. And I thought, well, good for you for going there, because that's gross. I mean, not necessarily, but the way they do it is really foul. It's really not right.
I can't believe we didn't know this before, but we just learned a great piece of trivia about this movie.
Yes, we did. The writer, Sakichi Sato, is Charlie Brown from the Kill Bill movies.
Yeah. See?
Of course he is.
I can tell by the faces. Yeah. A lot of people didn't know that either, but that's great.
I know.
That is good. Well, he was in the trailer, so then once you see it, you see him like, Charlie Brown. But the places this movie goes, even though, yes, okay, it is about the guy driving his colleague to be assassinated, but it's about a whole hell of a lot more than that. So it gets the points for quality and quantity.
It is.
And variation, as you so aptly pointed out, of body fluids.
Mm-hmm. Variety. And also, my colleague Matt Weiner came to the Fright Club where we showed it, and in the office where we worked, they had a conference room that has like these sort of Ohio cow paintings, and we just renamed the conference room Go Zoo. So we were like, which room are we in? Go Zoo, and that's where we would go. I might have been the only one with like the guttural sort of pronunciation, but still, others did say Go Zoo.
And that's why she now works at home. So that's number one, and we're running late, so we got to get on with this. Be sure to stick around. Like I said, after we show it, we're going to talk about our more specific thoughts on the movie. Tonight, We Are the Flesh, and if you want to hang around for that, we would love to have you.
79 minutes later.
We're trying to digest our thoughts.
Yeah, so this is the most sexual movie I've ever seen. That is the least sexiest movie I've ever sat through. It's crazy what they do with that.
It's graphic.
It is. It's graphic. It's like I think so. You don't really know it until the end of the film, and I hope that this isn't a spoiler for anybody who's listening. But it's really a metaphor, right, for kind of the like lowest socioeconomic status people in Mexico City, and that it's sort of this idea of comfort and birth and rebirth, and it just what people with absolutely no money and no hope and no possibility of ever leaving where they are right now, what they do to try to find some amount of life.
Yeah, and in some ways it reminded me of, for that reason, We Are What We Are.
Yes.
The original We Are What We Are.
Yeah.
And a little bit, too, for that central figure, Baskin.
Yeah,
because
I can
of
see that,
that
yeah.
central figure that controls everything. What do you think?
This is like the most you guys have taken it. This is the most WTF thing I've seen at Gateway. I love going to see movies and not knowing what's going to happen. And it's like these
You're
ones
welcome.
that help me appreciate all the things, all the other things,
right.
much more. Like, I think the last thing that had made me feel almost this way, although this clearly takes the cake, was this movie that I saw here a few months ago. That was French film. Part of it was like black and white and color, but all the boy cast were actually played by girls, and the boys slowly became girls over the course of the film. And there was lots of sex as well. And this is
Was that one of ours? That wasn't one of ours. I don't even recognize that movie.
I bet it will be.
No, you guys should see it. I mean, I hope if you like this, you'll probably like that too.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about the Wild Boys from a couple of years ago.
I do. So I love Noe Hernandez, right? The central male figure in this movie.
Yeah.
He's just nuts,
He is.
and in the best possible way.
You can tell you can tell his face. He's just, that guy's nuts.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of the lines that he delivers would have seemed so corny and weird coming from anybody else who couldn't like master that creepy smile. And I do think that there's a lot of merit to the movie, although I can see where it's not everyone's cup of tea. And as Richard said, I'm not even sure it's my cup of tea, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I think every time somebody got up to either go to the bathroom or get a beer, she's whispering to me, "We lost one." No, they're coming back. Now, we should say this is writer-director Emiliano Rocha Minter.
Yes.
And I whispered to you, he's done more things or no?
No, he has not.
They drummed him out of the Corps after this.
No. But this does remind me, like you said, it reminds me of We Are What We Are, because I think it's a very similar. It's also metaphorical about poverty in Mexico City. And it reminds me of Go Zoo, a movie where I don't even know if I could describe the plot or if there is a plot. Again, there's a lot of body fluids.
Well, and there's a birth in Go Zoo.
Yes, exactly. Go Zoo has a lot of birth and rebirth.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not even sure which of those scenes is weirder. The one where a woman gives birth to a grown man in Go Zoo, or this one where he just kind of breaks free and does a little wiggly dance in the ground.
If you notice...
The wiggle dance was the highlight of the movie, I'm told. He is a snappy dresser.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean, I love how early on, they're building that structure, and then very slowly the structure goes away, and it's not...
A womb.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And the birth canal is more clear and more clear and more clear until then at the end he's out in society.
Right.
Yeah, to bring the metaphor to a close. Yeah, I mean, it gets very surreal in its presentation of it. Much more surreal than We Are What We Are does.
Yes.
With that same message, but it certainly stays with you.
Yes, and there's a lot of sex happening.
There is a lot.
And and none of it you're like hubba hubba. The whole time you're like, oh.
Well, as we said before, it goes places.
It does.
It sure does. So, all right. So We Are the Flesh. It was an experience.
It
and
was.
We thank you for sharing it with us. And grab a towel. And as always, be sure to let us know your thoughts on any of these movies that we talked about or some that we missed. You can find us on Twitter at Fright Club Pod. And again, there's going to be no in-between studio Fright Club until the next Fright Club Live, but we want to see you back here.
That's right. On August 14th, we are going to show Hounds of Love, which, again, is a very difficult film to watch, but it's incredibly great. Little Australian independent horror movie, and we are going to talk about missing persons.
And there may be a bit of fun before
There
that
might
one.
be
So
a Fright Club field trip.
Hopefully we'll have an announcement here very soon.
So get your shots.
Yeah. So we always appreciate you listening to the Fright Club.
And wherever it is that you listen, please subscribe, rate, and review.
All right. So until next time, she is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends.
Thanks, you guys. Hit it.